the father of Bungee. Today is a very special day. I would like to introduce to you Kal Muller. He's a living legend and he's the actual father of Bungee. This individual, my friend Kal, is 80 years old, doesn't show. He has lived a legendary life. He has spent over 59 years in jungle territories with tribal people, exploring from Africa to Vanuatu, the New Hebrides, to Mexico, to Papua, where I actually happened to meet him, where you see these things behind us. We collected them together in the jungles of Papua. But today, I want to introduce you to him with this unique story of how he went to an island called Vanuatu, nowadays called the New Hebrides, and he was the first man to jump off the towers, the wooden towers, that they built there and tell the world about it in an article in National Geographic in 1970. How I got to know Kal was actually as a child in Chile, and my father subscribed to National Geographic. And in 1970, when the article came out, I still remember that it fascinated me. You know, that this even existed, these wooden towers, and all of a sudden this gentleman shows up and just hurls himself off the tower in an incredibly tribal territory, which at that point in time was not easily accessible. So here's the thing. How did you ever come about this idea, Kal, to go and jump off these towers?
I didn't know until after I got there.
Really?
I went originally on a sailing trip to look for Michael Rockefeller's skull
Mm-hmm.
in New Guinea.
Quick one. Who's Michael Rockefeller?
Michael Rockefeller was the son, a scion of the Rockefeller family.
The oil tycoon family, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
And he was collecting art in the southern part of New Guinea when the boat he was on overturned.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to swim to shore and disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And it's likely that he was taken in and killed by some cannibals.
Yeah.
And so I set out to look for his skull.
That was in the 60s, as far as I remember.
It was 1966 when I sailed across. The event happened, he was lost off the coast of New Guinea in 1961.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I was going to look for his skull.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, sell it to his family. I don't know what it was going. Once I found it, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But first I had to find it.
So then you got on the road?
Yes, but fortunately, before I went to see Dr. Douglas Newton, the head of the Museum of Primitive Art in New York.
Okay.
And I asked him, Dr. Newton, if I can't get to the New Guinea for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
what alternative would you suggest? And he didn't hesitate, said, go to the New Hebrides. So when we couldn't get a sailing permit to go to New Guinea,
How come? What was the
because
problem?
the Indonesians had just taken it over from the Dutch.
So the Dutch had left, Indonesians came in.
That's right, because
All right.
Rockefeller was lost under Dutch times,
Mm-hmm.
but then Indonesia came in, took over the western part of New Guinea,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want any outsiders there because they were not very nice to the local people,
Mm-hmm.
to put it mildly. And so I decided to go to the New Hebrides since we couldn't get to. So I went to the New Hebrides, but I didn't know about the land dive. When I got
so
there,
was that unknown at that point?
no, it was no, it had been known. It had been known.
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't know where it was. I didn't know anything about it. I went to another area first.
Okay.
And then I heard of a land dive that was put on for visitors.
Okay.
So I saw the land dive for visitors and I said, man, I got to get the real thing. I don't want a land dive done for a bunch of
Tourists,
doros. Yeah, whatever you want to call them. I was one of them, by the way, but
Mhm.
that's when I first saw it. And then I decided I want to get the real thing, not some fake thing that's put on for money for tourists. So I went to this village. I spent 7 months there, and thanks to my good relation with the local people, I was allowed to be there when they built the tower, and they asked me to jump from the tower.
But this was on a different island within the archipelago or on the same island that
Different
you saw the first
island.
one? Different island.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the island of Bunlap, correct?
I don't know. The Bunlap is the name of the
The
village.
peak of the village, okay.
The name of the island is Pentecost Island
Okay.
because it was discovered on
And the
Pentecost
first,
Day.
the tourist jump was on which island?
Same island,
Okay.
but in a Christian area.
Ah, okay.
So, people jumping with shorts and, it was not the real thing.
But okay, so you go into this untouched village or not so touched village. You come up. How did you connect with these people? Like, hi, I'm Kal. I mean, how does it work?
A bit like that. I walked in, there was a landing strip on that village, and then I got some guides to take me to this island, some porters.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got there, I called the men together, and I said, well, I'd like to spend some time with you. I didn't say I wanted to do the land dive, but I wanted to spend time with you because I wanted people in America to see how you people lived.
Okay.
And they liked America, but they still remembered some of them had worked for the Americans during World War II
Okay.
in a big American base fairly close to there, a different island, but they worked for a big American base.
Okay.
So being an American, showing their local traditional culture to Americans is one of the things that got me in. It took a little while, you know, because they built a little house for me. I ate their local food. I shared my food with them. I started a little school for them, because these were people who did not accept Christianity. And this,
How come they did not? I mean, which is interesting. What made him decide, if you know, to say, you know, that's not for us?
well, it's a long story, because Christianity has a very evil story in Vanuatu,
Okay.
New Hebrides. Missionaries came, they did all kinds of things. They established, the Presbyterians especially, established very strong laws that forbade traditions. So my main purpose, not only for the land dive, but in other areas that are covered in the New Hebrides, was to go to the areas where they had not been Christianized yet. There were not very many, and there's still a few people left. So I wanted to document by photos and by film, 16 millimeter film back then, how the people lived in their traditional lifestyle.
Got it.
And the land dive, of course, was the highlight of this as far as spectacular jumping, a spectacular event was concerned. I filmed dances, I filmed all kinds of other things too.
But it's unique. I mean, this is the unique standout feature of their culture.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so what is the meaning of it? When is it sort of held? Background story on the
Okay.
meaning and why.
Okay. The main purpose of the land dive is to ensure a good yam crop for the following year.
Okay.
This is based on a legend where an old man cut his fingernails and his toenails, threw them outside,
Yeah.
and they grew into yams.
What is yam?
Yam is a tuber. It's like
What's
a
a
potato.
tuber?
It's something that grows underground.
A root,
A
essentially.
root. It's a root
Yeah.
crop. That's right.
Okay.
It's a staple. Yams and taro.
It's very starch rich.
very starch rich. That's right. But this is their main staple food,
Mm-hmm.
and also their ritual food. When they have a big ritual, they need specially grown yams that can sometimes grow. In New Guinea, they grow to 2 meters, 2.5 meters long.
Wait a second. Special yam? That means that they let him grow longer? Is it special earth they grow
Special-
in? How come they get so big?
They let them grow longer by digging a very deep hole,
Ah,
and the earth is like a powder,
yeah.
so the root can grow down.
Really like drill in.
Yeah, normal yams, they just take a digging stick, they make a hole, they put the yam in it, and they'll grow, you know, this big, you know.
That's normal. That's
Yeah.
normal eating yam, but the other one is grown specific
Especially
depth,
for-
so they really grow
Yeah.
larger.
So anyway, this old man who cut his finger and toenails,
Right.
threw them outside his hut, and they grew into yams. So he told his boys, his children, to kill him and cut up his body
Lovely.
and plant his limbs into the earth.
Incredible.
And these limbs grew into variously shaped yams.
Okay.
So the land dive tower has a series of platforms,
Yeah.
and one series of platforms corresponds, let's say, to the knee,
Mm-hmm.
the other to the thigh,
Yeah.
the other to the midsection, and the very top is the head.
Okay.
So that's the head-shaped yam is kind of round. It's a
Okay.
head-shaped yam. The thigh yam, of course, is a bit longer.
Okay.
So it's different types of yam. So by jumping from these platforms that represent the body of this old man
Mm-hmm.
who gave yams to the Yam clan,
Yeah.
you ensure that a good yam crop will follow the next year.
How tall is a tower like that? On average, I mean, I know it's.
It varies, but the one I jumped from is about 25 meters or so.
Astounding.
Yeah. Now I didn't jump from the tower.
No. The point is that the whole size of what is an effigy of a human body, 25 meters. That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Well, there was also a little side story to this. When I was a little boy in Hungary, I read a story about an explorer,
Okay.
and the explorer was shipwrecked. Cannibals took him in.
That's a novel, of course.
Some
Yeah.
kid's story.
Yeah. Okay.
And the cannibals gave him the choice, either to boil him and eat him,
Mhm.
or forcing him to jump off this big tower.
Okay,
So
interesting. So that was the first like flavor.
as a
you
kid,
got.
you know, I said, what would I do? You know, would I have the cojones, as we say, to jump from a big tower,
Yeah.
or would I jump from the tower as an alternative to being boiled and eaten? So, but I was prepared. I did some parachute jumping. You know, I lost an inordinate. I still have a bit of problem with heights, normal. But what really helped me is that when they started building the tower, it took about a bit over 2 weeks. Every day I was in the tower filming. So as the tower went up, it was part of me. It was part of the spirit of this ancestor who died. So I felt extremely confident. Once the time came to jump, I didn't have any fear at all.
So you're acclimatized literally by
being there.
But wait a second. This is before video camera. So how much did your equipment weigh? Because what you sound equipment, camera, film, what 60mm film? Or what
Yes,
were you
Roger,
using?
yes. 16mm film.
How much does the camera weigh? I mean, nowadays we've got mobile phones, which is like, yeah, whatever, but
Well, in the tower itself, I used the Bell and Howe, which is a fairly small camera.
the hand cranked one.
Yeah, hand crank, 40 seconds per crank. So these people who use video these days don't know what that was. It's a different
but
ball
that
game.
means that 40 seconds, that means 40 seconds of film time per
Per
per fully loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I also had, at the beginning, I had an Airflex from the
Okay.
German Army, World War II.
Ariflex, yeah.
Beautiful camera that was with batteries. So
Mhm.
I could get a 100-foot roll, 2 minutes and 40 seconds roughly.
Damn.
Then I got a 400-foot magazine for that, which is 11 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got an Eclair, another kind of, it's a French camera
Yeah.
that had sync sound. And then I got another camera, the Aton, which always acted up on me. These are jungle conditions,
Yeah.
and these cameras were not really built for jungle conditions. Well, you know, porters banged them around and all kinds of things happened. The Airflex always worked. The Bell and Howe always worked. My crew, I had some crew, sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. So it was touch and go, but it worked out. In the end, I got some pretty good footage, and you'll see some of that in a little while.
And so the question is, I mean, of course, right now we know bungee jumping, rubber stuff. I mean, yeah, I mean, we know it goes doing, you go back up, all sweet. So they use jungle vines. How do they measure this? I mean, tell us a bit about the mechanics of how does it work?
Okay, each person builds his own platform.
Right, and decides the height, I guess.
Yes,
Right.
decides the height, and I didn't know how to build a platform. I'm not very good with my hands. I try to use my brain. So two friends built it for me,
Yeah.
and then the land dive has to take place at the end of the rainy season,
Okay.
when the vines are their most resilient because it's been raining. So
Yeah.
it's not, you don't do it in the dry season.
It's
Some
not.
Christians did it
Yeah.
in front of Queen Elizabeth, and one of them died.
Oh God.
And then,
Because the vine snapped, they were too dry. And
well, in my land dive, some of the vines snapped too. But after they took up the shock.
yeah.
But it's not only one thing that takes up the shock. The tower itself is anchored, and it has forward give.
Okay.
It's tied in with vines to some stumps in the back.
Right.
So it has forward give. The platform from which you jump is supported by 3 slender sticks.
Okay.
The middle one is called the penis, and the other 2 are the lips of the vagina. So
Okay.
when you jump, when you're at the bottom of the jump, these sticks are meant to break.
They snap.
That collapses, and that
Yeah.
also helps to absorb the jump.
Right.
You jump on an angle,
Okay.
on a slope, and everything has been taken out of that slope. Every little stone, every root, everything's been taken out. So it's
Mhm.
like foam rubber.
Yeah.
So the idea is for you to calculate your arc. When you push off with your feet,
Right.
you calculate the arc so your head will touch the ground. The
So
idea is
Yeah,
for your
you
head
do
to
like
touch.
this, and you like jump like this, and you're at a
Yeah.
slant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you jump too far, your head's not going to touch, and it's a bad jump.
Really?
Yeah.
So it has to like kind of connect.
If you don't push off enough, you
Yeah,
plant
okay, then-
yourself literally.
yeah, then you're a
into the
10
ground.
peg, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So my head touched, but I didn't feel anything. One of my vines broke. I didn't even know until someone told me later.
Stunning. So wait a second. I remember from the pictures that you did jump with the traditional tire with.
I jumped with a penis sheath.
Yeah, made out of what kind of vegetable material? Is it like
It's
a palm cloth or?
It's a pandanus. It's strips of
Pandanus
pandanus leaf,
Okay.
which is dyed,
Right.
and the women make it for the men.
The men. I think they boil them in like bamboo, like hollow
That's
bamboo
correct,
with
yes.
color, like tie dye, essentially a bamboo stick,
Exactly.
right, on the fire.
And this is one of the things that really distinguishes Christians from heathens, is that heathens won't put on a penis sheath. And I put on a penis sheath.
Okay.
Because I'm a kind of a heathen.
But so you come into this village and go, for lack of a better word, I'd like to jump.
The land dive, the invitation to do the land dive didn't happen the minute I got there.
I know. So you spent some time.
7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
Diplomatically, who said you want to, or you said I'd like to? I mean, it's interesting because you're hanging around for 7 months. Fair enough, right? You eat with them, you are with them, which is fair. So how did that actually, the little diplomatic thing of I'd like to, or they said you'd like to, how did that happen?
Well, when I knew the time was getting close,
right,
I asked the chief of the village, who was a very good personal friend of mine.
Okay.
I asked him, would it be okay if I filmed this? And he said, sure. You know, you've been filming everything else. So
you might as well
film that. And I said, well, how about me jumping? And he just shrugged his shoulder and said, sure, if you want to go ahead, go ahead.
Very cool.
But see, I'd already taken the chief to 2 other major heathen areas on different islands where he and I wore penis sheaths. And the local people also wore penis sheaths.
Right.
So I was kind of integrated into the village as one of the heathens.
Fair enough.
Which,
you eat like them, you breathe like them, you walk like them.
It kind of applies, you know. When you look at my religious beliefs, I'm pretty much of a heathen, like you are, and some other some of our friends, our best friends.
Yeah. Interesting. And here's the thing, okay, fine. Nowadays you go to Bungee, and if anything happens, you can sue the company, go like, oi, you know, the cord ripped and they better have a good insurance. And not having that, when you go up there, and it's like, you're standing there looking down, so you jumped at roughly how many meters?
17.
That's decent. So you're standing there, it's like all the people are doing their dance, which is great down there. Well, tell me, man, you're looking down with this vines attached. What happens?
Not the least scared.
Really?
Nothing, no.
That is wild.
My only problem is that when I was ready to jump, my friend Bong, the chief, said, because the others do a little speech before jumping.
Right.
So, you know, if something's wrong, you know, like if you think your wife's been sleeping around, then you say, hey, I'm going to jump, but let everyone know that my wife's been sleeping around, you know, and the wife, you know, is kind of...
It's like a confession in front of everybody.
Right.
That's wild.
It doesn't have to be that. It can be anything. So I didn't say, you know...
But you're free to say whatever comes to your mind, essentially.
So, you know, I just gave a little speech saying how glad I was to be, you know, among your people.
But you were speaking Pidgin at that point, of course.
Yes, of course, yeah. I learned their language. I taught school where I taught them to read and write in their own language. I made up a phonetic alphabet in their language. So, but this was in Pidgin. I didn't speak the local language well enough.
Any recollection of Pidgin, like hello, how are you?
Plenty.
Give us a flavor.
Bamba, you may go a long way.
Okay, me go a long way. That means I go far away.
By you, me, you, and I will go a long distance.
Okay, one more time.
Bye bye, you, me, go a long way.
Bye bye, you, me, go a long way.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
There's all kinds of, like in Pidgin, a bra is called basket blonde titty.
Brilliant.
There's all kinds of things like that. To masturbate is fight 'em cock.
Sorry, that's brilliant. So, upon arrival downstairs, they cut you off, they cut the vines off.
Well,
and
first, one thing.
Yeah.
Bong and some others suggested I close my eyes.
All right.
And I said to myself, no
when
way.
I'm here, I'm here.
I don't think I'll be doing this too often in my lifetime, so I'm going to keep my eyes open. And what I distinctly remember is that I wasn't going down. The ground was coming up to meet me.
Wild.
Until, you know, I hit the bottom. And then, as I mentioned earlier, one of my vines broke, but I didn't know it. And you'll see in the film, there are people, both of their vines break, who jump from higher than I did.
Yeah.
And they're okay, because it's the right time of the year, and all these other factors that I mentioned help to take up the shock.
Stunning. And the age what? When did it start?
About 9, 10.
Damn. And height? 2, 3, 5 meters?
About 5. The lowest are about 5 meters.
That's, wow, man. Congratulations. That's stunning. So the thing is, so after you jump down, everybody jumps down. What happens next? I mean, it's all done. Nobody had an accident. Nobody suffers. Is there a little feast ceremony?
No.
That's it?
That's it.
They all go home?
Yeah.
I mean, after all that thing, they all go home? Serious?
after all that, that's enough.
No, it's astounding because in the Western world, it's like, yeah, man, party, right? Like Red Bull for everybody with vodka inside. So that,
Yeah,
you know, like, amazing.
The event is it.
And the tower then, let's say they let it rot for a year, or
sometimes they'll cut down the vines that hold it, so
Yeah.
they'll topple forward. They use wood for firewood.
and then next year same spots, of course.
No, not necessarily. Wherever they decide to do the next, not necessarily
That's
the same
interesting.
spot. No.
And from your viewpoint, after this article came out in 1970, like I said, I remember, and I was 8-9 years old, and this is how impressive that was to my mind then, because it was completely unknown. If you look at the impact of the article, did you realize what impact it had, or you were too much in the jungles because you lived pretty much in tribal areas for most of your life, so you didn't even realize what it would lead
I
to?
was very happy that National Geographic published the article. That meant money, and I needed money.
Then
to
you
keep
went back
going.
to the jungle, and that's it.
Yeah.
Interesting, because what happened was that after this article, by coincidence, by serendipity, he did it, wrote the article, got the money, went back into the jungle, and this is when the other people got the idea. It was like, wait a second, we can jump off towers, bridges, and cranes, and this is where the bungee jump craze started. So I present to you the father of bungee, Kal Muller. This is the story of bungee jumping and how it started. Now, the good news is we're going to have Kal Muller back next time to talk to us about cargo cult. What is cargo cult? Hang on. And if you like this one, like, subscribe, and share.